Welcome to the Wolverine Digest podcast, the best spot for objective and authentic coverage of Michigan athletics. If you want open dialogue, honest opinions, and in-depth coverage of the maize and blue, this is the podcast for you. And now, here's your host, Brandon Brown, joined as always by Chris Breiler.
I was going to start by saying go blue.
Wednesday night, 2.5, almost 2.5 hours after our normal scheduled time.
Dangerously close to my bedtime here.
You know, that is what it is.
But you're living the bachelor life, so you're on a bit of a different time frame right now than I am.
I don't even know what's happening over here. It was such a weird. We'll get into that a little bit as we march towards Thanksgiving tomorrow, which is just Thursday for me, apparently. That's kind of what we'll talk about a little bit. But first things first, the reason why we are just now kicking off here at 9:17 at night, Michigan basketball just played a game, kind of played a game. I don't know, man. I mean, they won, dude, but you don't have to look very far into what we saw and the reactions on social media. And I mean, like, Michigan was supposed to blow Tarleton State out of the water. They started 5 guards. Their tallest guy was 6'6", and they were in the game the whole way. I mean, Michigan ended up winning by, was it 11 or 9? 11. 65-54. But, you know, Tarleton battled them. They did a bunch of weird, you know, when you start 5 guards, like it does some weird stuff to the traditional lineup that Michigan has out there. Like they fronted Hunter Dickinson super aggressive. They double and triple teamed him. It was just kind of a weird thing. But I also think like Michigan didn't really capitalize on the huge size advantage they had. They turned the ball over 21 times. Like, that's crazy. And the shooting cooled off a little bit in the second half. I just think there's a lot of stuff that they're still figuring out. Devontae Jones, I'm not really sure how good of a fit that is at the starting point guard spot. The freshman still figuring some things out. Juwan's rotation. I mean, like, Frankie Collins was pretty damn good in the first half when Jones went out with 2 fouls, and he didn't even play in the second half. He didn't even put him back in. So I don't know, kind of a weird deal. Michigan wins by 11. They're 4-2, but I don't think anybody's feeling that confident about the team right now.
No, not if you look on social media, for sure. And I mean, watching the game, I think, I don't know, by last count I think they had 19 or 20 turnovers by the time the game had come to an end that I think had accounted for 22 or 24 points. So it just looks like a lot, you know, it looks a little bit sloppy, and it looks like a team, you know, chemistry counts in basketball, and you can have a lot of talented individuals, but you got to find the right starting 5. You got to get the chemistry going. And it's clear that even though there's a ton of talent on this roster, it's just going to take some time for them to get it all figured out. I still have confidence that Juwan Howard's going to get this team on track, and they're going to be where they need to be. But based on all of the excitement leading up to this year, you definitely thought that, you know, the team would be further along than what they are.
They are talented. There's no doubt about that. You see flashes of it from guys like Moussa Diabate and Frankie Collins, and Kobe Buffkin didn't even play tonight. Didn't even see the floor tonight. And he's another highly talented freshman that I thought would kind of start working himself into the rotation. Like, I'm sorry, man, but Adrian Nunez should not be playing over Kobe Buffkin. He shouldn't. I mean, he's supposed to be a shooter, but he's not shooting the ball well. He's a liability on defense. I don't really know why he's getting minutes at this point. And I do think it's time to start tweaking the lineup a little bit. I actually think that a starting 5 of Frankie Collins, Eli Brooks, Caleb Houston, Moussa Diabate, and Hunter Dickinson gives you your 5 best on the floor.
Can you time out? Can you boot this asshole out? He's like, can you see this?
Whoa!
Whatever this nonsense is. I mean, there's people asking legitimate questions, and you got this guy like.
I was scrolled up.
Yeah.
Time out. He's actually asked some good questions before on the YouTube page. I'm not sure
maybe it's a glitch.
No, that wasn't a glitch. I don't know. Because he came in right away and was like, "Am I late? Am I late?" And I'm like, "Bro, we're talking right now. Sit down and be quiet." And yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, I think the starting lineup is something that needs to be looked at. I think that gives you a lot of athleticism, obviously a ton of length with Diabate and Dickinson on the floor at the same time. And then it puts Brandon Johns back into a role that he's been better in. He's been more comfortable as kind of a 6-man energy guy off the bench, foul a little bit, put some pressure on the other team's backup bigs. And then maybe Devontae Jones, doesn't derail his whole game by getting into foul trouble. I mean, because if you're the backup, it doesn't really matter if you pick up a couple fouls. Like, you're good.
Sure.
So I wonder what that's going to look like. I wonder, how much more we'll see some of the freshmen. I wonder if Juwan, we haven't seen Zeb Jackson at all. I mean, a lot of people I think are curious about what he can bring as a sophomore. It's just, it's a work in progress in a bad way right now. I mean, like, again, they were supposed to blow that team out tonight and they didn't. Obviously they have the 2 losses on the resume already against good teams. Seton Hall won again tonight on the road against Cal. Arizona looks like, they're going to be a ranked team all year. I would assume, but yeah, I don't know, man. Not starting out how I thought it would. So,
well, I think a lot of people feel that way, but the one I'm really excited about the future of Diabate for sure. I mean, the guy is, that dude is just a lightning bolt, right? He's a lightning bolt every time he's on the floor. You're right. I'm not sure how long we're going to see him, but hopefully he's in Ann Arbor for a while because, again, I go back to the reference he made about, his play style and kind of emulating, KG. And I see that from him, the springiness, the intensity when he's on the floor. He brings all of that. And I think they're a different team when he's on the floor.
Yeah. So we'll see how that all looks. And we got a little bit of a break. I believe Michigan's next game on the hard December 2nd. And I think it's at North Carolina. So that'll be real interesting going down to Chapel Hill and see how that one looks. But got a little break there with the holidays coming up, get them back to the drawing board, back in the gym, and see if you can figure some of that stuff out. Tonight is going to be a little bit of a viewer-led, fan-led show discussion. We'll see what happens. I know it's a lot later, but most people are off work tomorrow, but it's still the day before a holiday. So we'll just kind of play it by ear. We have some backup topics we can throw out there and some things we can discuss. But if you guys have anything at all, throw it in the comments up there and we will talk about it. And the first one that popped up, and I did not see this as I was finishing up the basketball game, is Mel Tucker has officially signed his extension. Chris, I don't know if you saw that or not either.
I did not.
It's been confirmed by a bunch of people at the Free Press, and then Mel Tucker himself actually put out like a statement. So we talked about this a little bit before. We don't need to spend a ton of time on it, obviously, but that's the right move, right? I mean, you got to do it. If you're serious about winning at a high level, I know they got their brakes beat off of them last week by Ohio State, but like that's still the right move. In 2 seasons, he's done more than what anybody thought he was going to do. And if you really want to hang on to him and not have him use Michigan State as a stepping stone, you got to lock him up.
I think that's what it really comes down to, is you were either going to try to keep him in East Lansing for a long time, or you were probably going to lose him after this season. I mean, his stock shot up pretty quickly here. So I figured he would hang around at Michigan State for a while. He seems to have a strong connection to it, and things are working well. I mean, they were in the playoff picture for, a decent part of the season. I know that obviously the wheels came off down in Columbus, but in terms of, the Michigan and Michigan State rivalry, everything so far so good for the folks over in East Lansing. So I'm not surprised that they want to try to keep him there for as long as they can. And he's a good coach. He recruits really well. The players respond to his coaching style, and it's a good move by those guys for sure.
I got to throw it up there, man. Chris, is that vest the next item to be available? Very, very slick.
Maybe.
I was looking for house music, but I don't think I have any stocked up here. So
just keep your eyes peeled. Things are coming. They're coming.
I like that. As soon as Chris jumped on here, I'm like, dude, personalized vests now. We're doing the next show from Milan. I told him that's where we're going to be at. Chris is going
to go to Italy,
sitting runway side with his legs crossed and some big old sunglasses on, and
with no pants, of course.
Right. We'll see what he can find.
Sweat shorts.
His next his next venture. But no, I like that. I like that gear, man. I didn't know that was there, and apparently at least one other person is liking that too. So there you go. Keep your eyes out, man. Chris is he's a mogul.
We're always trying to grow.
He's a mogul. It's just I wanted to throw this up. This is really cool. And Chris, I think you might be putting something together about this. David Ojabo, I think it's more than just his mom, but I know his mom is kind of going to be the headliner, right? But I think multiple family members are coming to watch him play. I believe it's the first time in his career. Is that right?
It is. He's been there 3 years. The first time she's ever going to see him play in person. And to me, you don't want to read too much into it, but he's had one hell of a year. Things are going really well. He's starting to get some recognition in, obviously the mock drafts. Mom's coming into town to watch him play what could be his final game in Ann Arbor. You hope he comes back, but if he doesn't, it's understandable.
I mean, we've talked about.
I would not turn down a multi-million-dollar contract at this point in my life. I can tell you that.
Right. And we've talked
if anybody's
about
offering out there, if anybody's looking to just hand them out, I'm available.
I think you and I have talked about this before, maybe on the podcast, but definitely off of it. Like, your shelf life in football is not long, and you got to strike while the iron's hot. And if Ojabo comes back, maybe he's not as good without Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. Now, I'm not taking away anything from Ojabo. He's been phenomenal. The athleticism he's shown, the spin moves, the different kinds of things he's been able to add to his arsenal, and how good he is at football right now for only having played 5 or 6 years is incredible. But I don't know how you even really debate it, honestly. I really don't. Like, if he's really being billed as a top 10, top 15, even a first round pick, anywhere in the first round after this one season, from considering where he came from, his background, and how short of a time he's been playing football, you got to do it. It's a no-brainer. So I actually fully expect this to be the last time we see Aiden Hutchinson and David Ojabo in the big house this Saturday. So yeah, that's a big deal. Really cool that his mom and his family's coming into town, but a bummer for Michigan fans because probably the last time we see the old double nickel and the 97 out there. So yeah, that's something to think about for next season for sure. This is a pretty vague question, Chris, but I'll throw it to you. What are you going to say to it? What's the defense need to do on Saturday? What does Michigan's defense need to do on Saturday?
Well, I think, the two guys you talked about, Hutchinson and Ojabo, I think they have to get pressure on CJ Stroud. They got to get him out of a rhythm early. And I think early is where it's going to count. You can't let him get a few deep balls off early. I didn't know if you were going to, you don't have that as a drop yet, do you? Okay.
I forgot, dude. With the
Either way,
game, we had a stellar lineup of new drops.
You can't let him go off early. Hutchinson, Ojabo, they've got to get home early. And then in the secondary, that to me is going to be the difference maker. Are guys like, Vincent Gray and Jamon Green and DJ Turner, are they going to be able to shut down what is, I think, unquestionably the most talented wide receiver group in college football, right? I mean, this is NFL talent across the board. And so these guys are going to be tested. But I would say probably that's where it starts is, with guys like Hutchinson, Ojabo, and then in the secondary, obviously we saw what can happen against Michigan State. The wheels can come off pretty damn quick. They can put up 45 points, 50 points and a half like it's nothing. And that's pretty scary.
I'm with you. It's Hutchinson and Ojabo. Ohio State's offense is lightning in a bottle, and it can strike early and it can strike quick and it can strike often. But if you can pressure CJ Stroud, he is still a young quarterback. He's 11 games into his career now at this point of the season. But that's what you have to do. And the worry there is that they have Travion Henderson too, and he didn't really have to do anything against Michigan State. So they're just loaded, man. They have the number one offense in football for a reason. And like you said, the best trio of wide receivers that you can trot out there right now, and a bunch of NFL guys all over the place on offense. So yeah, we'll see what it looks like, man. I do think that's the key, getting pressure with 4. You can't send a bunch of extra guys to try to get pressure because then they just pick you apart. They're too good in space and catching the ball and turning short throws into long gains. And yeah, anything that develops for a long time too. They're just they're hard to handle, man. They are hard to handle if you don't get pressure on CJ Stroud. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. We're just kind of guessing at this point. I think we could probably try to confirm by Friday. I'd be surprised if he doesn't play. Blake Corum. Sorry, I didn't read it out loud for anybody that might not be.
Same. And again, haven't confirmed anything, but based on what you're seeing and some of the little tidbits out there, it seems like he would be available. Obviously, he looked good in the warm up last weekend. Didn't need him, but it looks like he can move. And I think if you're holding him back and you wanted him to get healthy for one game, it seems like this is where you kind of, if your horses are able to go, this is when you use them.
We talked about this a little bit on Monday. I think this was one of our burning questions. How much X factor is Donovan Edwards? Love how they used him at Maryland. Well, part of that was out of necessity because Blake Corum didn't play and might not have been 100%, and it just was working. I mean, we learned in talking to some of the other players throughout the week that Maryland was a heavy man team, and they did a lot of man beater stuff with Donovan Edwards, and that's why he caught 10 balls, and that's why he scored from 77 yards out on that wheel route. It was a beautifully designed play by Josh Gaddis, or I can't even think of the quarterback coach's name. I'm drawing a blank. Matt Weiss, man, I couldn't even think
Weiss,
of it. Whoever designed the scheme to have 3 guys off to the left and run kind of a levels concept across the middle of the field, and then you had you had Donovan Edwards swing out on the left in a wheel route, and there was no way for the linebacker that was guarding him to keep up. It was impossible. And so he caught that right in stride. Beautiful throw by Cade, but they did a lot of man beater stuff. I don't know if you could do the same things against Ohio State. For one, I don't think they're as heavily man-to-man on every play like Maryland is, and they're better. They have more athletes. They have more speed. They have more talent. So I don't know. I'm curious to see how they do use Donovan Edwards, because like I said, if Blake Corum is back, now you've got 3 backs that can get the job done in different ways. And how do you juggle that? And how do you figure that out? I think I asked you, I think it was my question, Chris, and you said I would do exactly the same thing. If you can, right?
If you can and it's available, I don't know that it's going to be Donovan Edwards per se, but what I will say is I think it's going to take that type of effort from one or multiple offensive players at the University of Michigan to get a win. So you're going to need a guy like Andrell Anthony to go off and make some of those catches that you've seen him make throughout the year. You're going to need a Donovan Edwards to get out in the flat and be able to, you're going to have to, I don't see any scenario where Michigan can dink and dunk its way down the field. I think they're going to have to come up with some big plays, and you're going to need guys like Donovan Edwards to do it. So how much of an X factor is he? I guess that, to your credit, that depends on the health of Blake Corum, and it depends on whether or not how they want to use him is going to be available based on what the Buckeyes are doing defensively. But either way, got to get the ball in the hands of your playmakers on Saturday. That is not the game to hold anything back.
If Ohio State sits back in a zone a lot more than Maryland did, then a lot of those throws to Edwards aren't going to be there. They just won't be. So it's going to be interesting. Ohio State's got the tape from last week. I'm sure they're sitting there saying, we're not going to let this damn freshman do that to us. Like, are you crazy? So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And if Blake Corum plays, then that's another wrinkle that you kind of have to figure out. Chris, I'm going to let you specifically address this one because I feel like you are bosom buddies right now with Lewis Blake. He says every year he tells himself not to get his hopes up against Ohio State. And here we are. His hopes are up again, thinking Michigan has a chance. Chris, bring him in, dude, for the real thing.
Well,
bear hug, dude.
Lewis, this is, what this is. This is being a Michigan fan. This is what happens in November. Michigan, you tell yourself, I did the same thing, told myself at the beginning of the year I wasn't going to buy in. Then I started to buy in, and then they lost to Michigan State. And I said specifically on one of our shows that I will never make the mistake of picking the Wolverines when my gut tells me they're not going to win. But Lewis, I'm in the same seat as you, man. I've bought back into this team. I think that there's something special there. I know that we always find a way to say this every single year, but I don't know, man. I watch guys like Aiden Hutchinson speak in the way that they are on the field and the camaraderie and the brotherhood. I feel like this team is different. It's built different mentally. And to me, that's been the biggest difference all season. They would have, and you've seen Cade McNamara allude to it. Like the game in Penn State, the type of game that they would have folded and lost, they're built a little bit different. So we'll see what that means. I don't know if that's going to equate to a W, but I like Michigan's chances on Saturday, and I didn't think I was going to be there, 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Lewis, I hate to be that in that mindset, but I wouldn't call it having hopes. I think Michigan's got a shot. They are at home. Michigan does pose some things that are going to be tougher for Ohio State than anything they've seen this year. But I don't know, man. I watched that game last week against Michigan State, and I just was like,
scary.
Wait, that team that's getting absolutely just punted all over the field beat Michigan a couple weeks ago.
But nobody, listen, if that's what Ohio State's going to do, nobody's going to stop.
Nobody's beating them.
Nobody's going to beat them. So you have to believe that Michigan's defense, led by guys like Hutchinson and Ojabo, are going to disrupt everything. If they come out and they start slinging the ball all over the field, that's all unless you can make, at that point, it just looks like you might be outmanned. I mean,
Yeah.
if Michigan has to know what they're going to do, come out early, and you've got to set the tone early. If they fall behind, like if it's 14-0 with that type of offense, that can't happen. They've got to jump on them early.
You mentioned Penn State, Chris. Nice little segue here. James Franklin, Michael Wangligowski. That is a mouthful right there, brother.
It is.
Thoughts on the Franklin extension? I think he's a dumbass. I don't know. I've never been a big fan of James Franklin. Dude, that field goal call. I would have fired him right there. I mean, I don't know who the AD is or I don't know. I would have ran out onto the field and punched him. I don't know. I don't think he's that good of a coach. I know he's won a Big Ten title, but he hasn't been very good over his last, whatever it is at this point now, 20 or 25 games. I saw somebody tweet out the other day that he'd have to win a whole bunch of Big Ten games in a row to approach Jim Harbaugh's level of success. And we all know where I stand on Jim Harbaugh. So I guess it's kind of in the same vein as what Michigan State's doing. If you think he's pretty good for you right now, and they do have a phenomenal recruiting class coming in, I wonder if that factored in at all. But if you don't want him to get poached away and you don't think there's somebody else out there and you'd rather have him, then you got to do it. I guess you got to lock him up. But a 10-year deal. I mean, we all know that these things are written on toilet paper, right? Like they can dip whenever they want, pretty much. I mean, there are penalties and there's buyouts and there's things like that. But I don't know. I was a little surprised. I just don't think he's that good of a coach.
I'm not surprised that they offered the extension. I'm surprised that he took it. I thought that if there would be an opportunity for him to maybe go out west or go, I don't know, back to the SEC, that he might take it. But isn't he from Pennsylvania originally?
He's a PA guy.
Yeah, so he's a PA guy. And to be honest, from a fan standpoint, I just like having James Franklin in the Big Ten. He's, he's a character out there at Penn State that I like having in the Big Ten. And so even though I don't like James Franklin per se, I like having James Franklin in the Big Ten.
See, I think I'm even in a little different boat then, because I would probably hang out with him. I've got some friends that are dumbasses too. I like dumbasses are fine. I just don't think he's that great of a coach. I think he seems like an all right guy. He is entertaining. He is a character, as you said. I mean, he pulled his ass out at a press conference to show a bruise one time. I mean, like who does that? Give him 80 million. Give him 80 million. I don't know. No, I don't hate him. He doesn't bother me. I just don't think he's that great at his job. And they just gave him a big deal and a lot of money. But I'm with you in the sense of like I kind of like him being in the Big Ten. It's
Big
fun.
Ten coaches getting paid.
Yeah, makes it a little fun. All right. I'll just throw this up real quick. Austin Hall, will we be outside of the stadium before the game? We will be. I don't know exactly what we're doing yet. Chris and I have kind of started putting together a little bit of a game plan to get some pregame stuff, like game day. There's a potential opportunity for some game day access, ESPN game day, like the actual set and the stuff that they're doing. And then we might try to do a little B-roll and see what the fans are thinking and doing out there. We kind of have to put all that in place together. But yeah, we will absolutely be there at some point. We'll be
out and about and, taking in the sights and sounds for sure.
We typically haven't done a lot of hanging out. I don't know if that's what you were kind of asking. I mean, like we just kind of park, we walk up and we go in. I don't know. Well, I expect Saturday to be a little different than that. That's about the most I can say right now, because we haven't made our definitive plan just yet. I think this is a really good question, because I do think that David Ojabo and Aiden Hutchinson are gone after this year. So Gabe Connell asks, who can step up? I mean, what are you going to do when 20 sacks or more are suddenly off of the roster and off of that defense? Like, who can step up? I think Mike Morris is trending in the right direction, but there's nobody like those two dudes on the team right now. There's just not.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Morris, I would say, see what Braden McGregor, what's going to happen with him. I mean, he obviously, it's taken him a little while to come along, but he's one of those players that you think would step into a role like that and do well. But Brandon's right. There's no way that you're going to replace those two. But in terms of who's going to step up, I think, if I had to pick one at the top, it would be Mike Morris and then followed by Braden McGregor. I think that those are the two guys who are, in place to sort of take over those roles next year.
I like the potential, but neither of them have played a whole lot.
Here's the thing about McGregor. He's all tatted up. His name's McGregor. Like dude, if you're tatted and your name's McGregor, like you got to be just, and you play like on the D end or you're like a linebacker, whatever the hell you're doing.
Yeah.
You just got to take heads off.
This is I like this question. We don't do a lot of these like 50-50 or take your pick type of questions. This might be something we have to inject into the show, Chris, because I like this from Ron Thomas. More likely on Saturday, a JJ touchdown or a JJ turnover?
Ooh,
I like this question.
I
like
do
this
like
question.
that from Ron
Yeah,
Thomas. And
I
I
like
would say a JJ score with his legs, not with his arm.
99 overall, JJ McCarthy.
I mean, here's the thing: if JJ wants to score, he will score. How about that? That's how good JJ is.
Here's what I'll say and why I will say it. It's a score because I don't think there's any way possible Jim Harbaugh and Josh Gaddis and Matt Weiss put JJ McCarthy in a position where a turnover is even remotely possible. Because you cannot have that from that kid on one of his 8 snaps against Ohio State in this kind of game. So I think just because they'll do whatever they can to not turn the ball over in every possible scenario and situation, that I'll pick a score. But I don't know. I don't know how much we'll see him. Like, he didn't play at all against Penn State, against a good team, a game they had to have, like
right,
a game. So that's interesting. I like that framing of that question, though. I also like this question, and I haven't really thought of it this way. Jonah asks, how many sacks does Michigan need for a win? Do you think there's a number? I hadn't really thought about it this way in terms of like an actual number that they need to get to affect CJ Stroud enough to get a win.
You know what's weird is I was thinking along these lines today, and I'll answer this question, but I thought to myself, what would be the number that Michigan would have to keep Ohio State under to be able to win at the right. Like they can't, like, what's that line? But in terms of sacks, they got to get to him at least a couple times, right? They got to put him on his ass a couple times. I hate to say 4, but I think it's going to be that kind of effort where defensively you are just, you're costing them series because you're getting to the quarterback. I think that's what you got to do. Otherwise, they're going to put points up on the board. So I would say 4. You get 4 sacks, I feel comfortable.
I don't know if I've ever thought about a game in terms of sack numbers equating to a win. I guess maybe that's where I would look into things. I don't know if it really does. I don't know if, I could think of some games where teams have probably gotten a bunch of sacks and not won the game. I mean, there's probably an example in both directions, and there's so many games played and so many different things happen. But
I would say if you look at the stat sheet after the game and Michigan has 0 sacks on the afternoon, that probably doesn't bode well for what the final score is going to be for Michigan. And so if I look down there and I see Hutchinson and Ojabo got to Stroud 2 times each, I'm probably thinking Michigan probably had a shot in that game. So they got to have more than 0. I'll tell you that.
I mean, look back at last week. Michigan gets 1 against Maryland, wins by 41 points.
There you go.
So I don't, Jonah, I like the
and
question.
Did they even need it? They didn't even need it.
I don't even know. I don't know if sacks really do that for you in this game because of how important I think pressure on the quarterback is. I see where your head's at, but that's a weird one. I'll admit, I don't really know if like certain numbers of sacks. I'm sure there's some weird statistic out there somewhere. Like
Let the record show, Jonah, that I answered the question. I answered it, Jonah.
You did give 4. A number. I don't think that it matters. I don't think the number matters. I think it's more about the pressure, moving Stroud off his spot. Like pushing him off his spot, making him make a bad throw can sometimes be better than a sack. He throws a bad throw and then it's a pick and then gets fun, whatever. I don't know. That's an interesting question though. I do like that. It leads into some good discussion. This one is, I don't know, Marcus from the YouTube page. Will Juwan Howard be able to develop a point guard rather than getting a transfer, kind of like Jim Harbaugh and his transfer quarterbacks, Rudock Patterson?
We've heard this before.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I look at that the same way. And obviously he had a bunch of success with a couple transfer guys last year, and Mike Smith and Sean D. Brown. I'll be honest. I've never really... Let me back it up. It's weird to me that Jim Harbaugh has not been able to recruit a quarterback and develop him and find a guy through the recruiting process. But I could give a shit where they come from. I don't care if it's a transfer every single season. If that guy's a stud and he leads you to Big Ten titles in the playoff, who cares where he started? I mean, remember there was was it 2 seasons ago, 3 of the 4 quarterbacks in the playoff were transfer QBs. I do not care where they come from. I think it's weird that Harbaugh being a quarterback and having so much success with different quarterbacks in the NFL and the Andrew Luck track record and things like that he hasn't been able to do it at Michigan. I do think that's a little strange, but I really don't care where they come from. If you can identify a guy, you can find him, you can get him, and he fits in and he leads your team to wins, great, do it. That's what the transfer portal's for. So I don't know that I haven't really thought of it as much of an issue for Juwan Howard because it kind of worked out last year, right? I mean, like, what's there really to complain about?
Yeah, I'm in this. I think there's a school of thought that you obviously want to see the guys that you're recruiting be developed and then fill those roles eventually. And it's been talked about a lot with Jim Harbaugh in the quarterback position. But at the end of the day, if we had gotten a guy like Justin Fields instead of a Shea Patterson, we're probably singing a different tune about the transfer portal and how effective it can be. But today's college football is different. And if there are high profile quarterbacks or athletes or point guards or whoever in the transfer portal, if you want to compete and you're serious about competing in today's college athletics in general, you got to be willing to get in the portal, especially, you can't be afraid to like rock the boat a little bit. If there's a top flight guy in there that could possibly be a game changer for you, you gotta go after it. So I don't know if that answers the question. Does it? I'm not worried about the transfer portal. Maybe not. Depends on who's available.
Will Juwan be able to develop a point guard? I like what I've seen out of Frankie Collins in 5 games. Yeah. I mean, early. I don't hate what I saw out of Zeb Jackson in limited action last year, and out of Kobe Buffkin's more like a combo guard. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a concern at this point. I wouldn't put it in that camp. And I don't even really consider it a concern with what's happened with football and Jim Harbaugh. It's weird, but I don't know if it's a concern. I guess that's kind of where I'd leave it. I think quarterback play needs to be a lot better at Michigan, but I don't think that necessarily is because recruit versus transfer versus I don't think that's really why it hasn't been. But yeah, that's a long discussion for another day that we've I don't know, we've probably touched on that a little bit before. Not a question that I'm getting on the screen, but a buddy of mine and my cousin both just texted me and said, dude, Colin Castleton is going off for Florida right now. Michigan could use that dude in a big way. So I don't know exactly what's happening. I don't know. I'm not sure who they're playing or what his stat line looks like, but both of them texted me within another couple of minutes that he's doing really well. And yeah, they could use some depth at the 5 spot because they really only have one guy. I mean, I know Diabate can play it, but to me, he's like the perfect 4 to go along with Dickinson at the 5. So that's interesting. Chris, have we heard anything else about this? What's Michigan rocking on Saturday?
I've been poking around, and I was told that it will be decided later on in the week. I'm hoping that I'll get some insight into it, and obviously, if I'll let you know. But I'm leaning towards. I think it's just going to be traditional
standard
maize bottoms, blues tops.
Yeah,
maize bottom, blue top.
That's what I envisioned. I mean, a noon game. Yep. It's got all the makings, and Jim Harbaugh's talking about channeling Bo and all. We're going old school. Maize bottoms, blue tops. Roll it out there. Let's get it. Jonah, another good question, but I think a super easy answer. What's more important for the win, the turnover battle or the sack? It's turnovers.
No question.
Without a doubt. Take care of the ball, shorten the game up a little bit, limit the possessions. I mean, you cannot give that ball back to Ohio State's offense and let them have more cracks at the end zone than you get. You can't do it. Michigan will get destroyed. Michigan is an underdog for a reason, not a big underdog, but an underdog, and it's because of that. Michigan does take care of the ball. They are at home. They don't commit a lot of penalties, so they have a formula that can work against a team like Ohio State. But if you trip up, if you get behind the chains, if you have to punt it back to them, if you turn it over, and give Ohio State a short field, it's gonna be a long day. It's going to be a long day. The
fact that Ohio State is going to have possessions anyway is a problem. You can't give them extra possessions. In Michigan, we've heard it, the general consensus, and it's right, is that Michigan has to play perfect on Saturday in order to win that football game. So absolutely, sacks would be nice, but Michigan can't lose the turnover battle. I don't think Michigan can afford a single turnover in that game. They're going to need to put as many points on the board as they possibly can. Turnover battle without question is more important.
I'm not trying to only pick Jonah's questions, but his seem to be the one that keeps popping up that I think is good to discuss. Which receiver has the biggest day for Michigan on Saturday? This is, it's been...
Tell you who it should be.
you think it should
Andrell Anthony.
I was going
It
to
should
say,
be
you think it should
Andrell
be
Anthony.
Andrell.
I think he is the most talented wide receiver on the field. And I'll say the same thing about him that I said about JJ McCarthy when we made the comparison with Cade McNamara earlier in the year. I've seen Andrell go out and do some things that I don't know another receiver on this roster has the capability to do. Maybe Sainer still, he's gotten pretty good at making some of those circus type catches, but Andrell Anthony, I think when he gets in the mode and he's lathered up, I feel like that is the type of dude that can go out and snag any ball out of the air. So if I had to pick and choose who I would like to have a big day, I think Andrell Anthony, if he plays a big part in this passing game, I think that's going to bode really well for the Michigan offense. Not a receiver, but a tight end. You also need Eric all involved, I think, big time.
I think, man, I just don't even know. I think Michigan's, I don't know if they're going to throw it around that much. That's where I'm like, I don't even know if I can really envision a receiver having a big day on Saturday. So this one's hard.
Don't you think they're going to have to? Like,
I
do.
do.
Really think they'll
I
limit?
do think they should. And but I don't know, man. I find myself really questioning what the game plan and what the approach is going to be. I mean, I talked about it on Monday. People took my words out of context. Shocker, right? Jim Harbaugh talking about blocking and tackling being the most important thing. And I challenged that a little bit in an article, and people thought that I meant like they don't matter at all. And I'm like, no, there's like it's like the opposite end of the spectrum thing. Like you say this, that people think you mean this, and I'm like, no, there's a
like wins against Maryland don't matter, so that means that just
go to and
lose all your
yep.
Let's make that kind of a jump.
Logical thinking there. No, I just think that I just feel like the words that he chose and what he said are going to be far away from airing it out and trying to hit big plays down the field. I don't know. I'm just trying to read between the lines a little bit. It might not mean anything. I mean, Harbaugh's all over the map with his press conference answers sometimes. Like, I mean, I didn't, that wasn't a Gene Wojciechowski response, but it was, it was one. I know. Damn it. I was supposed to have that as a drop too. It was one that I didn't love it because I just already pictured Harbaugh being like in his office, like 2-3 tight ends, extra, get Trente Jones in there.
Is there a way we can get a fifth tight end out here?
Yeah, I just picture it looking like that, like Joel Honigford playing 3 times as many snaps as Andrell Anthony, and I'm like,
yeah,
dude, that's not what. Anyway, okay, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole because it's. I don't know if that's what he meant. It's just what it sounded like when you talk about channeling Bo and that blocking and tackling are all you're concerned with this week. I don't know. It worries me a little bit. Weather this Saturday, real quick here, looks to be cold but nice, partly cloudy. Shouldn't really be. I mean, if it was like a driving snowstorm, that would probably benefit Michigan, but I don't think they're going to get that. Good morning from Shanghai. Wow. I just want to throw that. I just want to throw that up there, Jeffrey Blue. Thank you for stopping by, man. And we kind of already talked about this, so I don't know if we need to spend a lot of time on your question, but that caught my eye. But role that we expect to see JJ play in the game, I kind of said if they play him, I think it'll be minimal, and I think it'll be very, very safe. That's what I see.
Yeah, and I agree. I think it's going to be the same type of thing. It's going to depend on what the game looks like early. If it's one of those games where it looks like against Penn State, where they're kind of in a fight for a full 4 quarters, I don't expect to see JJ that often, if at all. But if there's a scenario where things are comfortable one way or the other, I wouldn't be surprised to see him in for a lot of snaps.
Dominic Renteria, I like this question. If Michigan wins on Saturday, where will this win rank all time? All time? That's a fat question. Here, top 5, 3.
I would put here's what I would say. I would put it top 3.
Yeah,
and here's why I would put it top 3. A, because we already know the storylines about Ohio State. B, Michigan has never played in Indy for a Big Ten title. C, the college football playoff. If you are a team that can get yourself on that stage, that type of thing can change the trajectory of a program. And I go back to what happened in 2016. I think that loss wasn't just one loss. I think it derailed this program for a couple of years. And so when there's a win as big as what this win would be, I think the last top 5 matchup between these two teams in the Big House was 2003, and Michigan won that game. If Michigan comes out and wins this game for what it would mean for the fan base who has been through hell loving this football program and wanting to see this football program succeed. I think if Michigan wins on Saturday, you are going to see a championship type celebration in Ann Arbor that evening.
It would be wild, and we would be on hand for it. And I hope we get to do that because it would make for an amazing experience, a lasting memory, great freaking content. I mean, I'm
going to get hammered.
Yeah, all that. I mean, I'm supposed to go to Wisconsin on Saturday to be with my family. I probably wouldn't. I'd be like, guys, have a good one.
I'm getting hammered in Ann Arbor. I'm sorry.
I'll see you when I get home. I wasn't laughing at you, and I didn't mean to be a distraction, but I'm going through the comments.
I know how it goes. Yeah.
And this one pops up. Dwayne Jones, my gut is telling me Michigan finds a way. And Chris Apperson says that's called indigestion.
Yeah. Well,
I like it.
Hey,
I like it.
History is what history is. There's no doubt that anybody feeling confident about this weekend. Sure, you could like some things about the team, but honestly, listen to the way people are talking on the radio. Listen to the way the fans are talking. We're all trying to convince ourselves here that there's a shot because we know how this movie typically goes. And once again, this year, it's starting to feel like there might be something special there, and to be this damn close to it. We talked about this on the phone the other day, man. It's one game. Like everything that has been holding this program back, all the frustration, all the bullshit we talk about all the time, all the things we rag on Harbaugh for, like it's all on the other side of this game if they can just get the W. And so I go back to that how much would it win? How big of a win would it be? Man, I say this is top 3 all time. This win for me personally would mean more to experience than any other win in my lifetime. My son, I've referenced him, 6 years old. He's never seen Michigan beat Ohio State. To share that moment with him, my daughter, my wife, like our first time experiencing that as a family, it would be special.
Yeah, be a big deal. It'd be a big deal. Chris, you and I were on hand for the massive maze out against Washington, the night game. Lee Brandon asks, do we think there will be a better maze out Saturday compared to the Washington game? I mean, the fact that it was like dark and it was nighttime and then that maze, that yellow glow and the pom-poms were going, there's more reason for this one to be more amped. But, and this is a big but, I think there's going to be a lot of Buckeye fans in that building, and that's going to put a damper on what that maze out really truly looks like. And it's freaking cold, and not a lot of people have maze coats.
You know what? I addressed this.
I saw it.
Listen,
I don't know.
Listen,
I don't have a maze shirt that would fit over my winter coat.
You can go down to Goodwill and you can buy a yellow shirt XL. You can buy it for $2, right? I'll get you a shirt from Goodwill. Listen, here's the thing. This is what bothers me about this is because, like Lee, that's a fair question. Do I think the maze out Saturday will be better, compared to the Washington game? It should be. It absolutely should be. This is the biggest game, not just of the year, but this is the biggest game of the Harbaugh era for sure. One of the biggest games in the last 2 decades. It would be awesome to hear Michigan Stadium live up to what it could and should be for this game. And you just hope the fans participate because it means a lot. You got guys like Aiden Hutchinson are asking for it. Wear maze, be loud. Michigan Stadium is and we saw it that night when Washington came to town, and you've seen it when Notre Dame's come to town, Penn State. That place can be very, very special when it wants to be and when the people inside are properly motivated. I can't think of any more motivation than sending your team to Indy and the college football playoff. Like, if you're going to bring it, bring it. Go to Goodwill. Get yourself a yellow shirt, Brandon.
Well, I'm going to be wearing, I don't know. What am I going to wear?
I might fleece velour.
Oh,
are you going to wear how about this? Kermit sipping the tea in velour.
Ooh, okay.
That would actually be kind of gangster.
I might wear.
I'm taking that.
I might wear the ski fleece that I wore in State College. I might
with the Bears.
Yeah, with the Bears on it.
It's good luck. Maybe we should wear what we wore in State College because that was good luck.
That's a thought. Ron Thomas, I like this question. I think it actually is going to set the tone for the day. Does Michigan defer if they win the coin toss? I think they should take the ball. And they should try to put together like a 7-8 minute drive so that Ohio State can't score a touchdown in 3 plays and take the wind out of the sails That's
Worst
what I
case
think.
scenario is that Ohio State scores first.
Scores
Do
first
not
and
give
early.
them the ball first. Right.
Yeah.
Take as much time off as you can. Hope you can put together a solid drive, a long drive, make CJ Stroud stand on the sidelines for a little while. And then when he comes in, put him on his ass. Like that would be the ideal start for Michigan, but certainly you don't want to defer.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, we're going to give Luke a quick shout out here. He said he was having some issues. He was real excited. He's trying to blame it on a friend. I don't know what's going on over there, but the flooding of comments, we're not going to have it. And I gave you a little TO. Chris was ready to put you out to the firing squad. I wasn't ready to quite do that yet. But, yeah, there you go. Anyway, people were coming to his defense in there, too. They're like, I know that guy. What the hell is he doing? He's acting a fool over there. So, I don't know. A little haywire. He just got his wires crossed for a second, right? We'll see we'll see if he can behave himself the rest of the way. I don't want to get to it yet, but the people are asking, and I think it's a fair question. Well, we'll address it in a way that I think is fair to address it right now. Jonah again with another good question. How hot is Harbaugh's seat if he loses on Saturday? I mean, Chris, you were pretty adamant about this on Monday. Because I asked it in a slightly different way. I mean, I said, what does the 0-6 start against Ohio State mean to you? And you said,
wait, what is the for his record 0-6? It's to the moon, gone.
The moon.
I think to me, that's the deal breaker. For as much as I love Jim Harbaugh as a fan, and for as much as I want to see it work, for as much as I believe that was how the story was supposed to go, that he comes back to Ann Arbor, restores the team. We win some Big Ten titles. I mean, after 7 years, I have no choice but to just say, probably not going to happen with this guy. And even if it does, even if it happens by year 10, is that really where?
Did it really work?
Was it really supposed to? That's the thing that bothers me the most about, and I don't want to get off on too much of a tangent, but you see it within the fan base that there are people that are waiting with bated breath to pound their chest if Jim Harbaugh gets it done. And I hope he does get it done. But everything that happened before it still happened. So for me, that's why I say that's how important this game is for me individually, that if he wins, the slate's clean. But if he loses, to me, it's like, I don't want to use I don't want to relate it to something, but at some point you just kind of have to take things for what they are. And for me, 0-6, what would have been 0-7 had they played in 2020 would be inexcusable for any Michigan coach, not just Jim Harbaugh, Brady Hoke, Rich Rodriguez, or any future coach that might come to the University of Michigan. There has to be a standard set for this game. Whatever that is, I don't know, but there has to be a standard.
Chris, can I diss your mom for a second?
Sure.
Is that allowed?
What did you say, the Lions coach?
Will Jim Harbaugh show more intensity this game? I mean, really fight for this win. I think he's always done that. I think the whole narrative that we need the old Jim back. Dude, he's always been the same. He gets pissed at calls. He throws stuff. He gets mad at I never really saw that go away. I don't really know where that narrative came from that he suddenly just
it's prevalent though.
Sat over there and didn't do anything or didn't care or didn't fight for his wins or didn't fight for his guys or complain about stuff in press conferences. I've been covering him in person in the same room as him for 8 years, and I never really saw a noticeable shift.
Well, so here's the thing. I didn't notice a shift in, I guess, his sideline energy, but there was a shift, I would say, in his demeanor after 2016 for a while. We talked about it.
You know what the shift was? He started getting his ass beat by 30 by Ohio State.
Well, there you go. There were press conferences where he would sit there and look like he was lost and confused. And it wasn't the same guy who sat at the press conference table, with, it was that short, it just, he seemed like a broken guy after that. But in terms of the way he interacts with the referees during a game, I think he's always been, that kind of guy.
Yeah,
you had to get on my mom like that.
A little, man, she's just the messenger, and it's a discussion topic. It's a discussion topic that's come up a lot since 2016, and I'm thinking When's the last time he was in overtime with a chance to do anything that big against Ohio State where he could blow a gasket and it might actually make a difference in what he's doing?
Been a minute.
That's always been my rebuttal. I think if there's a close game this weekend, well, we saw it a little bit at Penn State. And there's been other close games this year where he's throwing stuff and he's ripping his coat off. I mean, like, he's always been that same guy. It just hasn't had to happen. Like, I don't know.
Hands are on fire.
Yeah. Well, yeah. To me, it's been more about what's been going on out on the field and how he responds to it versus being like different mentally or approaching things differently. I mean, you hear the players talk about it. They're like, he'll do anything for us. He eats, sleeps, and breathes football. That's all he does. I mean, like,
he was out pushing the sled in the
offseason. I don't think it's ever went away. I really don't think it's ever went away.
Here's another thing, though. He did step away. He did step away from the spotlight a little bit. He got away from social media. He stopped doing the rap videos. He stopped doing the things that you would see on ESPN, whether he's climbing a tree or jumping into a pool. You don't see so much of that shit. So,
let's see.
I hate it on Carr.
Lee Brannon, do you see a scenario where Michigan beats the brakes off of Ohio State? I do not. I don't. No. I think there's 3 potential outcomes. I think it's a close win by Michigan, a close win by Ohio State, or a blowout by Ohio State. I don't think Michigan has what it takes to beat Ohio State handily, no matter how you slice it. I just don't. I don't see it.
I'll say this: if Michigan does it, if Michigan does beat the brakes off of Ohio State, it will be. I mean, it'll be one of the most impressive. You talk about how big of a win this would be if Michigan goes out and kicks the shit out of Ohio State. I don't think it's going to happen, but if they do, it would be one of the biggest performances by this program. Again, it would be top 3 performance.
Yeah,
have to be. This team, right? Everybody's starting to hop on board that Ohio State is becoming, the Ohio State you would expect, right?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's reflected in a 2-possession favorite at the Big House when Michigan also 10-1. I mean, like, I think everybody's kind of coming around to that. Excuse me, Joseph, I love this question, and I actually had this exact same thought. I don't know if we brought it up anywhere, but was I surprised to see Michigan use the backwards pass on the kick return, and maybe they should have saved it for Ohio State? A couple things. One, I was a little surprised. I don't know why you unveil that you have that in your repertoire against Maryland was it in the second half, right? Too. So I think they were up,
I believe so, yeah,
by multiple touchdowns at that point. But that's got to be opponent specific. Like they clearly saw something like an overflow of pursuit, or they didn't keep someone on the backside to be the contained person. So they thought they could exploit that. Maybe Ohio State doesn't have any of those holes in their coverage. I don't like that play's not just going to work the first time you do it against any team you try it against, because some teams defend against it. They make sure that those kinds of big reversals of field don't happen. The throwback doesn't happen. So I'm guessing they saw something specific against Maryland that made them think that would work. And so you try it, and it did work. I mean, A.J. Henning just ran straight. He just ran down the sidelines, and nobody touched him. So it's like a 2-part answer. Yes, I was a little surprised that they did it against Maryland, because they certainly didn't need it. They didn't need like some big spark to break the game open. They won by 40. They weren't up by that much at that point, but it also might not work against Ohio State. They have better athletes. They might have a better scheme. I know Ohio State actually does the directional kickoff. They put the ball on the hash, and they put most of their guys over on that hash. I don't know if they send anybody wide to be the contained person, but anyway, it's a long answer to that question. I was a little surprised, and it might not work at all against Ohio State. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think they probably saw something there that worked. They gave it a try, and if nothing else, it gives Ohio State something to think about. And once again, I'm getting an echo, so I'm going to hop back in.
Okay. All right, Chris will be back momentarily as I continue to look for questions in here. So you guys are being very patient. I appreciate that, and apologize if it's taking me forever. I'm sure there are hundreds of comments coming in, and I'm just kind of scrolling through and trying to grab them as I see them. So apologize if I'm skipping over you, or if you think I didn't get to you yet. I will try to do my best on that. But there's a lot of stuff coming in, and we appreciate that, man. When we get done with these and we go back and look, and it's like we just spent 55 minutes, an hour on there, and it's like 600 comments. I'm like, holy crap. Like, yeah, no wonder we couldn't keep up. No wonder we didn't get to everybody. So, and like Gabe, This was 25 minutes ago, dude. You're like, I'm with Brandon on that one. I have no idea what you're talking about. Yeah, so I appreciate the agreement. I don't know what you're talking about because I just now got down to your comment, and your comment came through at 9:45, and it's literally 10:10 right now. So again, thanks to all the people participating, but I literally don't even know what some of these are referring to because they happened so long ago. So I'm not going to do this yet, Gannon Jackson. I'm not dodging your question. But we will do a deep dive and a very specific prediction for our game, for the game picks on Friday. It's just not the right time right now. I think you kind of know where we're both going with this, though, based on how
we've alluded to it throughout the show for sure.
I think we're
throwing chips down there. You know, the little crumb trail.
Yeah, you guys are finding the clues. You guys are smart folk.
And yes, Darren, I am on the good Wi-Fi. I hope. We'll see. Every damn show, man. Every show I got to duck out.
I love it, man. Did you click on something? I felt like the sound kind of changed, and then the next time you spoke, you were like, "Oh, I'm getting an echo."
Nah, man,
I almost wonder if it's like going from screen to screen or trying to do something else. I feel like that happened to me once.
I didn't even touch it. Didn't even touch it.
I don't know, man. You got problems over there. Trying to see another question. Well, this has been talked about before. I didn't even look at the name. Jonah, again, with another good question. And I don't know how to say your last name, so I'm avoiding it on purpose. But who brings the national title to Michigan first, Harbaugh or Howard? I feel like it's Juwan Howard, but golly, after watching him for 5 games this year, it might be a little ways out. I know it's really early, and they're going to fix some things, and that team is going to gel, and the freshmen are going to figure it out. But, I mean, Juwan had them in the Elite Eight last year without their best player. I mean, I don't know. Phenomenal.
Unless Juwan Howard can win a national title before January, like it's obviously going to be Jim Harbaugh, right? Decided.
Look at this guy, dude.
Decided.
Yeah.
I'm not just on the wagon. I'm driving the wagon.
We'll throw this up for a minute, and Chris, you saw it first. You reached out to me. You put an article up about it. Thoughts on the Bo statue situation this morning? Stuff that I know we're not going to do a whole deep dive on this, but I mean, man, our guy John Vaughn, who we had on the podcast and the live stream a couple of times, has been camping out for weeks and weeks and weeks, and now this happens. I really don't think it had anything to do with Ohio State. I know they put the red paint on it, but I think this was an inside job. I don't know who might have done it or what kind of what kind of goal they had in mind, but this whole thing just kind of went away and nothing happened. It's really kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, we obviously, when the thing first broke, I think we spent a considerable amount of time on it. Anybody who's followed us for at least this year knows where we stand on it. It's obviously a hot button issue, but you're right. John Vaughn's still out there in the 10, and I actually called him today, and I'm going to head on down there tomorrow and hang out with him for Thanksgiving for a little. I mean, the dude's out there living in a tent. He wants, he wants something to happen, and you can't help but feel for these guys. And I'm not put it this way, I care less about a statue than I do about the guy sleeping in a tent trying to make his voice heard. And so we'll just leave it at that.
That's a good way to put it. That's a good way to put it right there. We'll move back onto the field. Is the Rose Bowl a good consolation prize? Successful season with an L. I'm not sure exactly what that second question is asking.
Successful with a loss to Ohio State, meaning
with the loss to Ohio State. I mean, I'd be pretty excited to go to California. I mean, me and Chris have talked about that already. A little New Year's trip out to Cali would be pretty sweet. But
we'll like it. Will it be good for the program?
It's another huge. If they can't win on Saturday, it's another huge letdown, another massive letdown, a long line of letdowns under Jim Harbaugh. So I know 10-2 is better than I thought they would be, but the 2 losses are about the worst 2 you could have. They're not about. They are. They're the worst 2 you could have. It's not even close. You now have a losing record to Mel Tucker and Michigan State. For the world against Ohio State. Missed everything again. You had it all right there, and you couldn't do it. If they lose, I don't know how. I don't know how as a Michigan fan, as the team, even like you're pumped to go play in the Rose Bowl. I know it's the Rose Bowl, but dude, like you just laid a turd in every sense of the word. I that's how I feel. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm wired a little different. I know there's a lot of people out there who are already like, we're giving Michigan a trophy for winning 10 games this year after they thought it was going to be worse than that. But that's not me, man. I'm not cut like that.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't view it as a successful season at all. If Michigan loses, and we talked about this before, if Michigan goes 10-2 with losses to Michigan State and Ohio State, to me, that feels like an empty 10-win season. To Brandon's point, we're obviously going to love, traveling out to Pasadena, being in California, in January. But in terms of what it means for the season and the program, again, I put out an article, what a win would mean and what a loss would mean. And I think we talked about what a win would do for this program, but a loss keeps us right where we have been for the last 2 decades. And when I say we, Michigan fans, where you just you're waiting for this program to live up to the lofty expectations that were set a long time ago. And people still hold this program to that high regard, and they haven't lived up to it in a long time. It looks like this team might be able to get there, but we'll see. But if they don't, is it a successful season? I don't see how you can turn around and say that was a successful football season. If I would be floored if Jim Harbaugh could stand up in front of his guys with a 10-2 record and losses to Ohio State, Michigan State, and say that was a hell of a season.
Missing out on all that stuff that they missed out on. And here's what I would say. I think it's completely rational and reasonable and possible to be much better than you thought and still be disappointed. Like those two things can exist at the same time all day long. I predicted 7-5. I called you a slurp for predicting 9-3. They're already better than that. And yet, if your losses are to Michigan State and Ohio State and you're not playing for a title, it's quite empty feeling. And I think that's fair. I don't know how anybody can say that that's like hating or like, yeah, but look where they were supposed to be. Okay, cool.
Dude, the only two fan bases you want to talk shit to, you can't talk shit to.
Yeah, you can't.
Like that's the word. You got to spend another off season like just taking it. I'm tired of taking it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's where I'm at, man. That's where I'm at with it. I think it is a much better season than I thought, and you're happy it's better than it could have been, but content, happy, calling it a success. I can't do that. I cannot do that. Yeah, we already talked about that. We'll be outside of the stadium. We're getting there early, too. There's a lot of stuff going on Saturday morning with game day and big noon kickoff and all that stuff. So we will see, we'll see what time we get there and what we want to do and what we're going to get into. I have some friends that tailgate. We'll see. We'll see. There's a lot going on all day. People are going to be in Ann Arbor Friday, obviously, for this one. I think this is a good question. Oh, my God, dude, it's Jonah again. This guy. We need to have him put our show questions together. If Michigan wins on Saturday, which opponent from the West is the best matchup for Michigan in Indy? I mean, you take Wisconsin again, right? You beat them in their house.
I would say you would take Wisconsin again for sure. You've already got the win. You've got the confidence against it. Does that make it a a little more risky now because you've already gone up against
twice? Yeah.
Listen, I think whoever comes out of the East, it doesn't matter. I think whoever comes out of the West is a good matchup for whoever comes out of the East. I mean, you're looking at Michigan and Ohio State, and I think they'll be just fine if they can make it to Indy, whichever one makes it to Indy.
I have a lot, dude. I'll be honest. Lee says I only have 2 shirts. I have wore this one on the pod before once, I believe. I just bought this one. This is an Amazon exclusive. No, what are they called? Amazon Basics tee, like $8. Okay. And I just bought it, and I've got a lot of shirts. It's actually one of my downfalls. I don't even have enough space for all the shirts that I own in my dresser and in my closet. So. Lee, you're wrong. I only wear a handful on the pod, it seems. I wore the Nike one twice in 1 week. I have wore this one before. I apologize. Yes, plain shirts. Chris looks like he's going sledding. I would never be able to wear all that gear on the pod. I would be sweating. I'm not doing that.
I'm down here in the basement.
I'm in the basement, too. I get fired up. I get amped. I get talking.
Okay.
The back starts to sweat. We're not doing
Yes, Gabe. That's exactly what he's saying. Brandon is basic. It's basic Brandon. He's gone through phases
No,
And now
no.
he's reached basic, Brandon.
No, I haven't. We've talked about this. I am phaseless, dude. I never went through phases.
That's basic.
We've been over this.
Oh, that's no. You did. Well.
This
We're
is
gonna
me.
start hemorrhaging viewers now.
You look well. We're about done anyway, so they can get the hell out of here. Don't let the door hit you in the ass on the way out.
You want to hear about Brandon's fashion journey?
Phaseless. I've been the same. You know, Chris was like, we talked about this on the drive to Michigan State. Chris had a Jinko.
I went through the Jinko. Look, one year there was one year where it might have been my freshman year in high school. I did my entire school shopping, clothes shopping at Hot Topic. I was that hardcore. I was into it. Jinkos, Airwalks, the band shirts. Some of the bands I was such a poser. Some of the bands I had never even listened to. I just wore the shirt.
Yep. Nope. Never did that. Never really did I've always been the same kind of guy. I don't know. I never did the weird face thing. There's a gentleman that Chris and I both know that used to do like silver nail polish and the guy liner and the long slick down like hair like down to here, the middle part and the big old black, the like the glow stick, stick guys.
Where isn't there like 12 of them under a bridge and they're just like doing
the funniest clip of all time.
Imagine if you stumbled upon that. I would be terrified. Walking down a dark alley.
I'm scared of teens and in general. Whenever we're out and about, I'm like, teens.
Dude, there's nothing scarier than a teen going through some shit.
Pack of teens, bro.
Stay away.
Stay away from the teens. But yeah, I've been pretty much this. I'm really scrolling pretty fast now because we're getting down to it here at an hour and 6 minutes. TFG. I said I love that TFG has been it's been pulled into the mainstream, at least among our little fan base here. People are always throwing TFG out there. I almost threw it out on Twitter the other day, and I was like, I don't know if Twitter really knows what that is. It's a very exclusive group. It's a very exclusive group. So Gabe, did Brandon have an emo phase? No, I didn't. I've always been one kind of music, one kind of style, the same basic handful of interests. I never did the jump around thing. I was into sports. I've been into art. I've been into rap, and I've been into, that's about it. Like, I haven't ever really switched up. Like, a bunch of my boys used to be into
see, that's why I feel like we should, I went
never did it, dude. That wasn't for me. If there's not a vibe, if I can't picture myself with a lady sitting on me to the song, I don't want it.
But see, that's what, like, back in the day, there was a segment of girls attracted to people who were like disturbed and troubled. I was just trying to get in and fit in wherever I could. The weirdos accepted me.
I did have a short phase of making fun of John U. Bacon. Small phase of making fun of John U. Bacon. I haven't talked to Johnny since that happened. He probably will never speak to me again. But anyway.
That was probably going to happen either way.
I think we're about done, dude. I think we're about done. We're coming up on an hour and 8 minutes.
It was fun. It was a fun show.
A billion comments. I can't even. Oh, dude. Yeah, Michael, I hear you. Pack of teens and some White Claw, dude. Get me out of there.
I mean, teenagers in general.
Me out of there. Here's your mom, all black attire. She can confirm.
Black attire, the dog chain around the neck.
What a weird guy.
Just like life was just, man, life. You know what I mean? Life.
You wore the big fat ball.
Dude, I was like 15. I was like 15 and like thought, at that point thought like life was just so heavy. Little did I know.
It's heavy, dude. Well, there you have it, folks. We will be back on Friday night, the game eve.
Woo! I might be a little turned on Friday. I might get a little turned up on Friday.
We'll see what happens. We got people wanting us to dress in Michigan attire. I usually try to keep it down the middle a little bit, even though I know where my
Gary Klein knows.
Lies.
ICP.
See, I did listen to
Cody,
ICP.
Freak on a Leash. See, these guys know. We got some OGs in the comments here.
I listened to ICP, but that was their rap. I mean, it was.
I haven't heard any Coal Chamber love. I haven't heard any Coal Chamber Limp Biscuit.
Jeez,
I'll bring it all out.
Weird guys. Weird guys. Chris is halfway there. Black hat, big old beard, black
I
bat.
still do black.
That's slimming. We both probably rock
Well,
the black, don't we?
There's reason. There's a method to the madness.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll be back on Friday night. Take care.